Hi, everybody. This is Kent Reed sitting in for Brad Newswander, who is with the board in retreat. Welcome to the Division of Learning Services Lunchtime Hot Topics. And we're excited to have two consultants with us. Kelly is with accreditation, and Kathleen is actually not only with KSDE, but also with KBOR. There's our agenda. Okay, if you have questions today, you can submit them to lunchtime@ksde.org, and we'll compile those and then share them via the listserv. Here's my contact information. And now to get the program started is Kelly Slayton, Education Program Consultant for Accreditation.
It's good to be here and hope you're having a great week. Today for the accreditation update, I have been asked to address the discussions that took place at the state board meeting last week. The state board had many agenda items, two of which related directly to accreditation. The first one was a receive item about the board outcomes for the Kansas CAN vision, and the second one was also a receive item about adapting the definition of the Kansas College and Career Ready. That definition right now includes the elements of academic, cognitive, technical, and employability preparation. So to look at the first item, the first outcome, there were 6, and the first one that the board is looking at for measuring the success of Kansas students is the high school graduation rate, specifically the 4-year cohort. And just some questions and comments that were discussed by the state board members had to do with, first of all, should there be a difference between graduation and college and career ready? Or are we going to say that graduation, if someone graduates, that means they are college and career ready? So that discussion went on. And then what is the definition of the term? Is it going to remain the 4-year cohort? Are we going to have our own definition in the state of Kansas, and so forth? So, of course, no conclusions were reached on any of these. This was just discussion. They also discussed whether we would use the federal definition or we would have our own different state definition. And then does there need to be more than one definition to account for such variances as special needs students? The second measurement or outcome was post-secondary attendance and completion. And the idea right now under discussion is that a completer is someone who possesses an industry-recognized credential or 12 college credits by the end of the first semester after their cohort graduation from high school. That would include students who complete that even before they graduate. Questions and comments at this point had to do with the fact that we don't have a universal definition for post-secondary attendance and completion. It would be open for Kansas to define. They talked about the responsibility for success passing to post-secondary at some point, and would that point be after the first post-secondary semester? Another question that was discussed was, would there be other equivalents to the post-secondary completion that could even occur during high school? Obviously, the college credits that are taken during high school would count, but some other ideas mentioned were the IB programs, AVID, the Board of Regents, State Scholar programs, Project Lead the Way, those kinds of things being counted as credentials that would count toward the post-secondary completer definition. Another idea was that the credentials that are chosen would need to be ones with high predictive power. If a student presents or completes this credential, it has been shown to be a high-level predictor in terms of their future success. Another point was accounting for military and other types of ways of achieving post-secondary job-related skills. The third outcome is post-secondary remediation. That would be the number or percentage of graduates requiring remediation before enrolling in post-secondary programs. One of the problems with that was that the data is not clean. Some private institutions do not report this data, and therefore it might be difficult to achieve a level of quality data there. Another idea that was discussed is would remedial course placement be the only option, or is there a possibility that targeted tutoring could take place, for example, for a student who just has a very targeted need within the realm of a specific course rather than taking the whole course? Could they just get some tutoring for the piece they need? And then the question came up about adult diploma completers, and the question was fairly well answered that those would not count because against the rate because their cohort would have graduated in previous years as opposed to just the 1 year prior to when the measurement would be taken. This particular outcome, post-secondary remediation, is one that is very much under discussion and not nearly as close to being, for lack of a better word, final as some of these others. The fourth outcome is kindergarten readiness, and that would be the percentage of students entering kindergarten at a determined level of readiness. And of course, one of the questions there is, well, how are we going to define that term? What skills and performance levels are going to be accepted for that particular outcome? And then, of course, the way that would affect funding for various communities and school districts who are shown to be more at need in terms of pre-kindergarten programs. The fifth outcome is individual plans of study, and the acronym for that is that has been used in discussion is IPS. And of course, we would be wanting those to be focused on career interests, and the discussion points there had to do with the fact that the IPS would need to be well done. It would need to be a program that is has a great deal of fidelity in its implementation at the school and classroom level. IPS for every student, not just some students, and also the idea that an IPS is not a product, it's a process, so it's continually being monitored, it's continually being revised as necessary. Post-secondary education is highly interested in the concept of IPSs in K-12. Someone mentioned that. And then support for the field in best practices and implementation with fidelity, again, would be very important at the state level. And also we would want IPSs, those programs, to involve parents and community and to hopefully have kind of a culture change. That was one of the comments of a couple of the board members. The sixth outcome had to do with if I can get this to click. There we go. The sixth outcome has to do with social, emotional, character growth. Most commonly, I've seen that particular one shown without the word character in it, so just social, emotional growth. And the stipulation there is that it would be using local measurements. There is discussion around the idea of having a universal type of assessment. And then there's also discussion about the state providing resources, supporting best practices, and model assessments to be used locally. And then, of course, model assessments versus a universal assessment, that's part of the discussion as well. And then also, where would mental health resources and programs fit into this, as many people recognize an increasing need for that to be something that schools look into. So toward the end of the discussion, the main thing that came out of this in terms of the fact that it's a receive item is that the board indicated that a great deal of work needs to be done before these measures are finalized, before it's determined exactly which of these 6 would be used and then how they would be used. And that the board members, many of them expressed their own individual need for some intensive time studying and discussing each one. And Dr. Watson mentioned that he has a plan for scheduling some board retreats around these measures. On the next item, or the second item that the board discussed related to accreditation, the definition of Kansas College and Career Ready, really the only change that they are discussing at this point is the addition of the term civic skills in the definition. The current definition is fairly well, the same except for that addition there. One board member wondered if we should use the word citizenship instead of civic. And someone else brought up whether or not we should include the words college and career ready in the discussion of the definition, or if we should call this definition something having to do with success rather than college and career ready. And then, excuse me, is the word technical included in employability? Are those technical skills included there? But it does have technical skills listed here, and I think the one board member that brought this up was wondering if employability also included the technical skills. That's really pretty much all there was discussed about the new definition. I'm sure there will be more discussion about that in retreats and future meetings. The board is expected to vote on the new definition at its regular meeting in January, so hopefully those discussions are happening during this coming month. If you have any questions about accreditation, please be sure to give me a call. Dr. Myers also is, of course, the director of the team and can answer questions along with Bill Bagshaw. Thank you for listening, and I'll turn it back over to Kent.
Thank you, Kelly. And here again would be the URL for addressing questions to us. And before Kelly leaves, I'm going to go back to outcome number 6. Social emotional character growth. The reason why it's listed as social emotional character is because we have had social emotional character development standards since 2012. So that's where the board is going. They realize that, in fact, we were the first state to adopt social emotional character development standards, and they wanted to include that idea of character development along with social emotional learning. Thanks, Kelly. Nice job. All right, next we have the privilege of having in our presence Kathleen Cochran-Mercer, who works as the Career Pathway Coordinator for not only KSDE, but the Kansas Board of Regents as well. Kathleen?
Thank you, Kent. So today I just wanted to discuss a little bit about the individual plan of study. So along with KSDE's new vision, we're looking at kindergarten readiness, increasing graduation rates, increasing the percentage of students completing a credential or pursuing post-secondary education, decreasing the percent of students who need remedial coursework upon attending a post-secondary school, that each student will have an individual plan of study, and that social emotional factors relative to student success, as we already discussed. We look at the individual plan of study as the keys to the kingdom, and because the individual plan of study naturally addresses multiple outcomes that are in the new vision. The individual plan of study will address keeping students on time and on track for graduation. It's going to address creating a pathway, including those post-secondary opportunities, creating the opportunity to identify when students are struggling academically so that we can help them rather than send them off to post-secondary needing that remediation. And then that individual plan of study will bring relevance and purpose to the course enrollment at both the high school and the post-secondary level for our students. The individual plan of study is definitely not a checklist. The individual plan of study is a living document that facilitates a conversation with the student regarding his or her future. At the very least, it includes career interests identified by the student through surveys or assessments. It's a roadmap based on their interests and talents and the graduation requirements. It includes approved coursework for the student's educational and career goals, and it includes developmentally appropriate work-based learning experiences. The individual plan of study is most powerful when it's accompanied by meaningful conversation and activities that help the student identify and set their goals. This is a shift of culture for many schools to move from a checklist to an actual plan of study, but we believe that with the right supports, our schools in Kansas will definitely be able to implement the individual plan of study. KSDE anticipates that the Board of Education meeting in January, the board is going to include the individual plan of study for every 8th through 12th grade student as a state success outcome. KSDE convened a focus group of counselors and administrators to identify those essential components of an effective individual plan of study. And these components, along with best practices for implementing an individual plan of study, will be made available to schools. We're currently working, KSDE and KBOR are partnering to come up with hopefully a cost-sharing model that will help offset some of the expense of implementing this individual plan of study for schools in the field. And we're very hopeful that we'll be able to provide the adequate amount of support for schools as they go through this process. So the focus group came up with these essential components that are necessary for the individual plan of study to be effective. A software platform of the individual plan of study must integrate with PowerSchool, Skyward, Infinite Campus, Insight, preferably with any system being used in Kansas schools. Another component would be college and career readiness curriculum for your teachers to use, including recommendations regarding when to implement interest inventories, etc. An exportable portfolio is necessary as one of the components, with room for career and secondary training goals, resume, cover letters, recommendation letters, essays, and artifacts all in one place. Another essential component is a map to the student's major of interest and courses required at the college level. We're wanting to aid that transition to the college of interest. So if you have a student who's interested in health sciences, we want to be able to map out what dual credit and concurrent credit courses can they take that'll get them on the pathway to accomplishing their ultimate goal. Systems should have a seamless transition from middle school to high school and high school to college. And by that we mean that whatever system is being used for the individual plan of study, we want that student's information to transfer seamlessly to the next school that they're attending within the district. A career profiler, including a personality tool, as in do what you are, and interest inventories with results aligned to related careers and saved for future reference. But that's not all. We have more essential components of individual plans of study, including secure access for administrators, teachers, counselors, parents, and students. General information regarding careers, including daily activities, required training, and potential job market. We want to be able to track students' progress toward a career cluster, toward graduation, what college applications they've submitted, scholarship applications, transcripts that have been sent, their progress in applying for financial aid, fee waivers requested and the status of those waivers, and career readiness activities that have been completed at each grade level. We feel like that's very vital information for the district to have regarding the progress of their students in completing this individual plan of study. Another essential component is the ability to send transcripts to post-secondary schools electronically. We would like to have a business connections component that links students to internships, job shadows, apprenticeships and that type of thing in his or her area of interest. We believe that that's vital to our students being college and career ready. Another component is the ability to see the courses that the student has already taken and what's needed for graduation, and to be able to enroll for classes. This will include a course guide and fail-safes to keep the student from enrolling in incorrect courses. Another essential component of an effective individual plan of study would be a college search function by major, sport, geography, interest, type of institution, and including a cost comparison function and an interface that allows a student to request information from a college. We'd like to have financing college guidance for students and parents, scholarship search function, FAFSA support, local scholarship information that can be entered by each individual district, scholarship essay writing tips, and we believe that data reporting is important as well. We want some post-secondary aggregate data and data at the secondary level so we can see how we're doing with implementing and providing an individual plan of study for each student. So if you would like some more information, I will be at the Career and Technical Education Annual February Conference on February 9th and 10th in Manhattan Conference Center, or feel free to contact me via email or phone. My contact information is available on the presentation.
Okay, thank you. Thank you very much, Kathleen. Now, we have already posted the PowerPoint on our webpage, and you can access that at www.ksde.org. Then in the top menu bar, click on Agency and go down to Learning Services Division. And there, as you scroll down, once you're on that page, you'll see the Hot Topic Luncheon. Okay, so that's all for today. For Nick and Brian, who are our production staff, Kelly, Kathleen, and Kent, here's hoping that you have a happy and safe holidays. Thanks for listening.